Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, the host of this great show, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We do our best to bring you cutting edge, useful, empowering information as per our logo and slogan. My guest today is Miss Manake, Sethebe Manake. She's going to talk about real estate, specifically technology in real estate. But let her introduce herself. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Mogobe.
Okay. Be kind enough just to give a lengthy introduction about yourself.
It would be a pleasure.
Yeah.
My name is Sethebe Manake. I come from Serowe by birth, and I am married to a gentleman from Bobono who gave me the Manake surname. I am a chartered surveyor in property investment and finance. I've been in the real estate industry, I think now for a little over 12 years. And I am passionate about real estate in terms of it being able to provide generational wealth for Botswana and for the continent. And I believe fully that the capabilities of technology are able to release a lot of the held up opportunities in real estate in the country. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me about your academic background, what the degree and what, etc.
Yeah, I studied real estate at University of Cape Town. It was a BSc in property studies. After that, I followed it up with a few real estate courses, sectional title, investments, and then I got a master's degree in strategic management. Thereafter, I worked on my charter. So when you charter, there are different channels of chartering. You can use your practical work as you do different types of activities. Normally takes 2 to 4 years depending on how fast you're able to get exposed to different things. Or you go an advanced route, or a fast route, which you write about different types of experiences, and then that's how you get admitted. Mine, like I said, is in property investment and finance, so it had to do with financial modeling, financial structuring of real estate investments. It had to do with looking at investment opportunities, different investment vehicles and things like that. So yeah, that's really my background. Yeah.
Tell me about the companies you've worked for.
I have worked for as a on internship when I was still studying. I used to come home and go at the time it was Pam Golding with Mogobe. I would do valuations or property management or estate agency, depending. As an intern, it depends on where there's need for your hand. So that was really helpful for me. My degree was a 3-year degree, and I started right from the first year that she was giving me all of these things. Every time there was a holiday, when I come home, I would work with her. And then after graduation, I worked at Property and Asset Management as a subsidiary of RTC, wherein I was managing half of the commercial portfolio. My first building was Standard House. In fact, that's the building that when I went for my interview, I said, that's the building I want to manage. That's the one I was interested in.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The one in the main mall.
Yes, the one in the main mall. It was just after its renovation. If you remember how long ago that was.
Yeah.
And then from RDC, I started Vantage Properties. And it was just coming from having a lot of conversations from a corporate perspective and talking to a lot of Botswana and realizing that a lot of Botswana don't know how much work goes into making an investment work, and the perception that partnerships can just happen and you end up with ownership of a big mall simply because you own the land with no other contribution. So it just pained me continually to have these conversations and realize there's a serious lack of information in this area, and that's how our people don't get to grow or invest. So I ran Vantage Properties for about a year. At the time...
When was this?
That was in 2008. At the time, what we did was we created sort of events that were platforms for engagement with different players in the market, from developers to financiers to insurers of real estate, just so that people can have an experience or exposure of what is available and how do things work. It went well for a year, and then towards the end of the year, I lost my grandfather, who was a great
mentor.
A great mentor and a pillar of strength for me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the strength to keep going at the time. I was a lot younger.
Oh, okay.
Then
about that.
I got, no, it's okay, I'm fine now. And then I got recruited to go Kumo as a property manager again, where I was then exposed to the 10-star portfolio. So I did 10-star, Botswana Pension Fund, BFM, and after that I went into...
When you say you did them, you managed that
I managed, yes, I managed the portfolios.
Rent, collecting rent and utility payments and that sort of thing. No,
at our level or at that level, within the organization, there's people who do the collection of the rentals and the maintenance. At the property manager level, the intention or your ability to, it's about you making sure the portfolio performs well in terms of negotiation of rentals, in terms of managing its budget, in terms of ensuring that you are aware of its performance holistically, and you can identify properties within the portfolio that are performing badly, come up with a strategy of how do we revive this property to adding value to the portfolio, or if it's not adding value to the portfolio, should we not dispose it? So you make those different proposals to the client or the portfolio owner, and you execute as per what would have been agreed. Yeah. So that's what in my property management experience, that's basically what it was.
So what is your current company and what does it do exactly?
Yes, so my current company, after all of these things and ultimately going to Litlole as a CEO for a short period of time.
How long?
About 9 months, I think. It was about 9 months. It's a
big deal, isn't it? Running such a portfolio for 9 months.
It was, but I was young. I think at the time if I wasn't 29, I was 30. And when you get to a certain level, when you're too young, you start asking yourself things around what happens next in my life after this? What am I going to be doing at 35? And at the time when these things started coming out for me, I was given an opportunity to go and work in South Africa under the Liberty portfolio. But even then...
That's also huge.
Yeah.
That's another massive step.
Yeah, it's a huge step. But the thing that kept coming to my mind is I've done a lot of portfolio management. I understand property, its ins and outs fully. But what is my passion? What is my desire? What do I want to fulfill? And that's when I made the decision that I think I've learned everything I need to learn. Now I can go back and solve the problem I identified the first time.
That's after Litlole and that's after Liberty.
Yes. Yeah. So then I said thank you very much. No, I went back to Vantage Properties. Where after Vantage Properties were still existing.
Yes.
So I sort of kept it alive in terms of compliance things and all of that.
For more than 10 years.
Probably, yeah.
Without working in it, but you kept it alive.
Yes. Because I think at the back
You
of
had
my
other partners
mind,
or you had employees?
no, I didn't have anybody. It was just there, and it was just doing your annual returns, making sure the account stayed operational.
Yes.
And I think at the back of my mind, I kept on saying, I still need to solve that problem because it still existed, it still persisted. So when I was searching to what is my purpose, this thing became a stronger voice that then eventually I said, okay, I'm gonna go do it full time now.
Okay, let's then talk about Vantage, the meaning of the name and what it does currently.
Yeah, so Vantage comes from advantage. And it was, or looking at it was, our purpose, our role is to help people to invest in real estate in a meaningful manner. That's where the whole thing started. And it was we are the advantage in real estate for our clients. And as it grew, or as I had a greater scope of how real estate operates, quickly realized that the most important thing that differentiates between one portfolio and another is really the information that informs the decisions that are being made. And that's where my focus then was. It was doing research that informed developments, that informed financing, that informed investment for different types of stakeholders. And then come 2017, when we were doing a lot of the research around the future of real estate.
In Botswana or in general? When you say the future of real estate?
Yeah, it was more in general.
Okay.
Because when you talk about the strategy of a business, you want to know what is happening globally and how does it impact your business and how do you plan your way forward. So I think it was first in 2016 where it became so clear that the influence of technology in real estate is going to be significant over the next 30 years. And for me was, there's no way I can miss out on that boat. So get ready now.
Yes.
And because of our background of research, it was much easier to see the connection of data. At the time, it was just research, and there was no big data. There was no, not so much of data analytics and all of that kind of stuff. So come 2017, I went to China through the Alibaba program, and I learned a lot more of the capability of technology in real estate.
Speaking of Alibaba, did you meet Jack Ma in China?
Yes, we did. We did. We were fortunate enough.
Tell us about that, because for me, I probably wouldn't wash my hand for a day or two.
Well, he teaches you quite a bit of humility.
Yes.
He's quite a humble man, and I think for me, I was just overwhelmed completely by having qualified to be part of the first cohort that the program was mentoring. And I was also overwhelmed by the kind of people that were also part of that cohort across the continent who were doing.
How many people were there?
There was 20 of us. So it was 20 young businesses across the continent who were either already using technology in their businesses or who were intending on using technology in their businesses. So it was really about understanding the impact of technology across the value chain or the ecosystem, and teaching us how to use it, how to build that kind of business. How long was
the whole engagement with Alibaba?
It was a crash course. I think it was a serious 2 weeks, 24-hour master's crash course in technology. We didn't sleep. So we would be in starting classes, I think it was 8. So we'd wake up 6:30, have breakfast. 8, obviously we are in class. Lunch would literally be about 15 minutes, provided there you finish.
This is where
get back
in
to
China,
class.
Shanghai?
In Hangzhou.
In
Hangzhou, the capital of technology in China. And at the end of the day, around 6, we go to site. We go to these businesses that we've been talking about. We talk to the CEOs, we talk to the founders, we understand how they started. They opened up their doors.
Speak English?
Yes. So at the time we talked to the CEO of Ant Financial, and you know what Ant Financial has been able to do in the past couple of months. We had
maybe you can remind us for those who don't know.
So it had the biggest cap raise in the world. I think they doubled how much they wanted to raise on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and it's an amazing financial platform that decentralizes how people can invest, and going right down to the simplest person that you can invest for instance, for them it was yuan a day, and you get to see how your investments keep growing, and they keep it live because of technology. You can watch your technology,
how it's performing, how the stock is performing.
Yes, how your investment is performing. You can choose what kind of things you want to invest in, whether it's new startups, whether it's technology or climate change or that kind of stuff. And I thought it was an interesting thing to bring down all of these complex investment concepts to the layman, for them to understand, hey, if I just put in a buck, I'm making an impact globally. So had that, met with the different e-commerce businesses, different big data businesses. There was one, we went to a place called Dreamtown, where it's a startup village, and you meet all of these different businesses that were being incubated, and they were doing.
Is it the equivalent of Silicon Valley?
I wouldn't know. So the reason why I wouldn't know is I haven't been to Silicon Valley, so I don't know if it operates the same way. But oh wow, it was an amazing place. So I really can't speak.
And on the real estate side, what were you exposed to there?
On the real estate side, so the big thing was how people were buying real estate, the type of applications that they had, and how they track analytics. So for instance, everything is around your house. So when you buy a house, you would choose it based on what kind of amenities are around. So you don't just go and see a house for the sake of seeing it. You get all the information about that house on your phone in your search. So you're fully informed just from how many schools are there, what kind of schools are there, what kind of restaurants are there, how far is the filling station or parking areas, what kind of rentals, what kind of investments, and all of that stuff. And most of it is, all these transactions are being done online. So for me, it's, oh wow, what a way to give power to the investor or the owner or whatever to make this informed decision. Yeah.
Okay, there's a thing called gosmartvalue.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so gosmartvalue was eventually what we created, as it's an automated property valuation platform. And for us, it's the beginning of giving people that power of knowing a lot about your property or being fully informed about the value.
How does it work?
So with gosmartvalue, you are able to do an instant valuation. An instant valuation, its instantaneousness doesn't reduce it from being a proper valuation, as people would say. The difference is you would input the information. So when you get on gosmartvalue, you will follow the
but there are different investment, valuation methods. There's the,
the income capitalization and all of that. Yes. So with the instant one, what we have built so far is a comparables method for residential property more specifically. You're able to get your valuation then and then. And then what we did is we then created...
Aren't banks more moving towards the income method?
Well, not yet. They're not there yet.
Well, F&B has.
Yeah, they're not in terms of residential property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking more commercial.
The commercial ones are all income cap for financing, but residential is comparable.
Can you help the listener understand the difference? Because this is also a chance to share information and teach.
So the different methods are like this. The method is really about what the purpose of the valuation is, right? So for residential property, the reason why one would do a valuation is usually to purchase. So the sales comparable method is to determine at what price the particular property would sell for by comparing it with other properties that have traded recently around that area that have got the same features or the same or it's similar to those particular properties. It has to be in the same locality. It has to exhibit the same kind of characteristics. So that's what the sales comparables method is.
Yes.
And then the income capitalization method, because it's about an investment, it uses the income that that property is able to generate. You remove your expenses, and then you determine the kind of return that that property is able to have. And then from there, that's how you
Okay,
you
so let's translate that to gosmartvalue now.
Yes. So with gosmartvalue, we started off with sales comparables to serve the masses. And what we did on the back of that was we wanted to provide the same kind of tools, data analytics, to other valuers to be able to do valuations. So
At a cost?
Yes, obviously for them it's at a cost because they get access to things that they would normally spend money to get.
Yes.
Either they have to go and do their own research, they need to go and visit somewhere and all of that. So we make it accessible to them on the spot. So when you are on gosmartvalue as a developer or as a property owner and you want to get a valuation, you can get the instant one. But if you want it to be valued by a valuer who will then use the income cap, if it's relevant for your particular property, you're able to give them an instruction on the platform, and they're able to process your valuation as you stay up to date with their progress. So have they received your instruction? You will get a notification say yes. Have they accepted the appointment that you made? Because when you say, I want my property to be valued, you say it can be inspected at this time on this day. Then they accept that, you get a notification they have accepted that. And then once they start doing the valuation, filling in the information that then populates the valuation report, it also updates you to say this is how far it is. And then when they complete the valuation, you receive it immediately.
Is this proprietary? Is it like registered with SEPA or whatever? Is it an app? Is it proprietary?
The proprietary element of it is the formulas in the back end, and we have protected them
Wonderful.
the way that we can. But just in case, if somebody's trying to look at technology in Botswana, SEPA doesn't, or you can't get copyright on software.
Why not?
Because it is considered to be, I remember the term that they used, so you can only, is it copyright or?
But you can in other parts of the world, right?
Yes, but just not here.
They should
Just not here.
They should get
The
their
law,
act together.
Yeah, the law doesn't allow that. We had a big fight around it at the time that we wanted to register. And that
But you have protected, you've registered something. Is it a patent, trademark?
Oh,
what
yes,
is it?
that was the thing. You can't patent software because it's not considered to be industrial, what do they call it? Industrial work. So for something to be patented here, it has to be, I think it's manufactured in a particular way.
Okay, just to be original, right?
Yes, but but software itself is not covered there.
Okay.
Software itself is covered under artwork. Is it arts? So you can only copyright it, you can't patent it.
So to an average man in the street wanting to buy a house, how does gosmartvalue assist them?
That's pretty awesome. So if you want to buy a property in Botswana, anywhere in Botswana, particularly a house, and you're looking at negotiation, maybe you have an offer on the table, you can literally go in there and do that valuation at a portion of how much you would pay for a full valuation that you're going to then take to the bank. And you're
go there, you mean, how do you go about it?
You go to on your computer, on your phone, you type gosmartvalue.com, www.gosmartvalue.com. When you get in there will be a form that sort of asks you, where's your property, the plot number, the plot size, the property that we're talking about, and it will keep asking you features of the property, how many bedrooms is it, bathrooms, and all of that, and it will generate immediately a valuation based on the sales comparable method for you to then use for your negotiation. And it's pretty useful, especially now when the market is turning, because it picks up from transactions as they happen. You are in a better off position, and it gives you 3 comparables.
Okay.
So it gives you direct, these are the transactions that have happened, these are the properties that have happened, and these are the plot numbers.
It's live as we speak.
It's live as we speak.
And how do you pay?
For the instant valuation, at the end of the process, it requires you to pay. You pay online, and then for the detailed valuation, you pay a deposit, which we then keep until your valuer is finished, and then the valuer inputs how much you are supposed to pay them. Once you've paid them and you access your valuation, we transfer the funds to the valuer. Yeah.
Why did your company start with automated property valuations?
So we started back in 2017 when I came back from China. And it was such a hustle because what we wanted to first figure out is what is the thing that people are willing to pay for that is of value to them, that we can use the information that we have to create. So we started off with
when you say we, you mean you
the
and
company. So there's now 10 of us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There's now 10 of us.
Okay.
And over time, we have grown from just doing property reports for different developers and investors to being able to automate a lot of those reports. Like now, apart from just on gosmartvalue, apart from just getting valuations, you can get market information, you can get locality information, you can get nodal reports that are...
What are nodal reports?
Like if you want to know about the CBD, for instance, you input, you're looking for a nodal report. So the types of reports are written there and their descriptions, and you even get to see what the sample report looks like. So the CBD, for instance, is a node. It's a business node. And you want to know what is happening in the CBD. It will give you the properties, the transactions that have happened recently in the CBD, and the amenities that are in the CBD. What are there? Banks? Are there shops? Are there what is here? And the number of properties, the number of transactions, the value of them holistically, so that if you're looking at investing in the CBD, you have the global view of what is happening in the environment that you want to invest in. So we have got different localities. We have got, so a locality would be something like phase 2, and then a location would be Gaborone. So we split them like that so that it goes right down to exactly where your property is located.
Does that mean you have to have someone full-time at the deeds registry office taking data?
We do. We do have somebody who is specifically in charge of watching the data, making sure that we collect the data on time. It's verified. The verification process is going through it and making sure that the correct information is inputted. It's inputted in the right format, and then we load it on the platform. The deeds office has been a great partner for us, and we expect to continue with the partnership.
Both here in Gaborone and Francistown?
Yes. It's both here
so
and Francistown.
You treat Francistown as a node. So how many nodes do you have?
No, so Francistown is a location.
Location, not a node,
yes.
Sorry.
We have got, if I remember well, the localities we have about 350. And that's because we've broken down, even Francistown, we break it down to Gerald, to Satellite, Donga, and every transaction when they come in. So when we collect from deeds, when they come in, we plot them on the map. So we know literally the coordinates of every single property that exists on the platform. The other thing that we then put in is things like amenities. How far is your property from amenities, from shopping malls, clinics, schools, police stations? And you get all of that information on the platform.
Obviously, you're competing against traditional valuation methods, and I don't know whether the existing valuers are very pleased about your existence.
No.
So you are a disruptor. So
Yes.
as a disruptor, you're catching a lot of flack. Are you not from it? Tell us about that.
We are, or I am. And the thing that I keep saying to them is, listen, there's a shift in life. There's a shift, and technology is creating this shift. Your customers are shifting. Your customers are becoming more digital. And this is across the board, whether it's for sales or it's for valuations or developers. Your customers are looking for immediate information for them to make instant decisions. This is the caliber of customer you have. And with our platform, we haven't closed it to say we are the only ones who should use it. We've opened it and said, listen, you serve customers. We have this technology. You can come onto the platform, access the same kind of information, and be able to serve your customers also. So what I normally say to them is, it's either I do it or somebody else will. And rather it be me from this country, from this industry, with this background, because you can talk to me and we can talk through things that could be challenges, and we can work together to build something that would be more useful for our industry, more useful for our country and our continent. So I would rather let's work together than I'm not trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this kind of service, is it available internationally? In other words, how established is it internationally, this kind of work?
As in automated valuations?
Yes.
Look, it's really popular in the West, if one would call it that, in Americas, in Australia. And over time, so we know when we did our studies, Namibia had tried it before historically. There's been trials of this thing. And the difference is the type of technology that's available now versus that was available then. Right now, if media is able to show you adverts that are accustomed to you, why are we not able to predict what kind of house you can buy or you should buy? Why are we not able to help a developer determine what kind of development they should build for that community? So with that technology there, it gives more room for development such as ours.
And how does all this add to the growth of the industry, real estate as a whole?
Yeah, so I think especially for the Botswana real estate industry, there has been a continuous undercurrent of discrepancies in valuations, some kind of mistrust in valuers. So-and-so gives me high valuations, so-and-so does low valuations, and all of that kind of stuff. There is a lot of discrepancies between when people trade and they're not informed. Whatever price, if I'm desperate, I want to buy it, I'll buy it. And we want to create some kind of normalcy that you find in other markets that we don't have here. And it's only by informing the market that everybody is, so your willing buyer and your willing seller are both informed in this scenario. And that's really what we are trying to get to. And my expectation is that it will improve how people invest in the country. It will improve how people perceive real estate. It will improve, at least get to a point where people are realistic about their expectations out of the assets that they have, and they can make the right decisions.
When you talk about investors, there's an issue that keeps cropping up relating to this 30%. It's not even VAT, it's transfer duty. And there are two schools of thought. There are those who are saying it was politically necessary to save the land from disappearing to foreign hands. And there are those who are saying that it has really messed up the market, and to the extent that it has affected the growth of the real estate industry. What are your views?
So I don't think it was necessary to remove property in the hands of foreigners. Why? How does property get in the hands of foreigners in the first place? And does that stop it? So first of all, when you talk about, which is where a lot of these transactions are happening that are supposed to be stopped, is in tribal land. And tribal land, by our law, is not supposed to be sold unless developed. And that's where the loophole is. And for as long as tribal land it cannot be sold normally, I get it now, people do development contracts, and that's what constitutes the sale at the end of the day. So the transfer will happen much later, but it happened a long time ago.
Possession takes,
yes, possession has long happened. So if we don't recognize these transactions, we can never capture exactly what we are trying to capture with the transfer duty. And so it for me, it was a little bit misdirected. The thing that we need to, these transactions need to be recorded. Then you'll get to know if it's real or just a perception that foreigners
because you think it's just a perception?
I think it is a perception. I think it's a perception. I also
do you think it's detrimental to the market? Do you have foreigners dominate?
I'm a free market person.
Yeah.
I'm a free market person. Land usually starts with locals and then is transferred to the foreigner. So why should we punish the second owner when the first one wants to dispose? Land is never allocated to a foreigner. And even when it's a lot of the initial transfer of property is to a Motswana, who then releases it. So the only way is to stop Botswana from selling. If the intention is not to have foreigners own, then Botswana shouldn't sell to anybody else but other Botswana, and that's not practical. Yeah,
it cannot work.
It can't work.
Okay, and still this gosmartvalue has disrupted the market. To what extent has it penetrated the market? How is Botswana responding, in other words?
It's slow. It's slow in terms of adoption. There's enough hype and excitement by the price. I can save so much when I do a valuation. But the understanding of how does it work is a bit of a challenge for people to understand that the same process I would go through as a valuer is the same process the system does. And in fact, the system is better because it counts for everything without my subjectivity. So it will treat every property the same. So that's one of the things. And then there's also the challenge with the valuers. Though there isn't a rejection, it's just resistance to change, I think. It's more resistance to change and fear. There is it is a justified fear of if you change the way that my business has been operating completely, how do I guarantee its future? So it's baby steps, but we're getting there.
There are two real estate organizations. One is RIAC and one is RIAB, right?
RIB, yeah.
RIB. How have they responded? How have they responded to this change?
RIAC responded very well. They gave us support. I think, even RIB gave us support to say this is definitely something that is necessary in the industry. And also the other thing was that how much it can help valuers to keep an audit trail of their customers. This is around AML issues, to keep a trail of
AML?
Anti-money laundering and terrorism, because essentially any transaction, any instruction you get on the platform, it keeps it, and how you go about doing the valuation and the payments and all of that. And when you do a transaction on the platform, we keep a record of who you, so we do the KYC and it stays on the platform. So if you deal with anybody, all they need to do is get a request for a report around your transactions and all of that.
So many things you do on this platform. Do you have an army of software specialists, or shall I say coders and whatnot?
Sure, my developers don't sleep. But I think our approach is what needs to be done, right? We understand that this is the industry that we're in. And us being in this industry, it means we need to make sure that all our processes comply with all the legal requirements of our industry. We also understand that our clients, we do have banks who use our platform, but for different things altogether. We understand.
What do you mean? Not for valuations?
Not necessarily for valuations, but for, so one would use them for, so we have something called bulk valuations for banks.
Bulk.
That's where they run their loan book on the platform, and it churns out the values for each property. And they use that for their risk mitigation when they look at how they fund going forward in specific locations and all of that. And then the other thing is where they're looking at which areas should we be funding. Then they use our data analytics to figure out which areas are performing better, which ones are not performing so well, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what the banks are mostly using the platform for. So we understand the importance of the information that we have on there, the security of the information that we have on there, and we have to do it. It's things that we have to do those things. Otherwise, we are risking our clients and our reputation.
Yeah. You're obviously looking into funding and to growth. Tell us about the challenges you are having and the need for growth in terms of expansion and scaling.
I think the biggest challenge that we have in terms of growth is local adoption. And the most important thing for financiers or investors is traction. And having in fact, even traction for us is also affected by the decision-making process of, if we're talking about financial institutions, for instance. For the individual, it's fine. You can decide to do it today, tomorrow, you move on. But the most crucial clients for us are the financial institutions. Why? With financial institutions, once they accept, for instance, an instant valuation as a valuation that the format that they can take, or then that means that when you go in there and use it, then you can share the valuation with the bank, and that will speed up your loans process. So it's they're very crucial part of thinking. And then there is also the challenge of talent in the country.
Yeah, I mentioned software developers.
Yes, software developers and also the types of new technology. They are so new, and there is so much development that's happening in the areas of AI and machine learning that you will not find somebody who is young, who can be a developer that we can afford, who is already an expert in these particular areas. So
don't you have to train them from within?
We do. We do have to train them, and that's what sort of takes time. So it's a learning process for all of us all the time. And the wonderful thing is because of the platform that we use, so we use Google Cloud, they're very supportive in terms of even taking us through different solutions, and we're able to have conversations with them around, okay, this is what we want to do, what would be the most relevant technology to use, and all of that. So I think it's just a mixed bags of all of these things.
And how is it regulated? Because I mentioned REAC and RIG, but they have the Act which how do they regulate this particular aspect?
So the regulation of valuation is about what do the reports have to look like, and what are the inputs you need to put in. And with that, we completely comply. And then there's the aspect of regulating technology or innovation in that regard. And this one I will always borrow from Jack Ma, and he says when you find your innovation already having regulation, you should know that you are behind the curve.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, so you should always lead regulation. And for us, not having regulation, even at a global level, around this kind of technologies, for us,
the regulators are still scratching their heads,
it's
figuring out how to control it.
Yes, it's more what exactly are we regulating? Because the process is set. It's what a human being would do, only it's being done by a machine, and it is likely to do it faster and better with less errors. So what exactly would you be controlling in that
You
regard?
painted a picture of a bunch of robots and machines. Is it that advanced to the point where now you're relying on AI itself?
Look, I go back to adverts that come to your phone. It's because it has learned your behavior on what kind of things do
what sort of things you're interested in.
Spend time on. And if it's able to do that, and it's able to tell.
You're talking about the analytics and the algorithms.
Yes. If they can learn already, it's about the existing technology. If it's able to learn already the caliber of person you are, then it should be able to predict your behavior towards anything. And when it comes to property investment, it's really about prediction of behavior. It's about prediction of possibility, of opportunities. And now, who can predict better than a computer?
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice also to know how you are investing in real estate yourself as a person who's steeped in this. First of all, why are you so passionate about real estate? And secondly, what are you investing in currently, either individually or as a company?
Yeah. So as a company, we don't invest in real estate. I'm very clear about that, particularly because I believe that for me to advise you, I need to not have conflict of interest. And if I'm advising you on commercial purchases and I own some, when an opportunity comes, who do I prioritize? Is it you or me? So that's so that's what my view is. In terms of individually, it's more of family investment decisions, homes for rentals, here and there, very small scale, something that we can manage from a home's perspective. What I love about real estate is not the brick and mortar. It's the financials behind it. It's the things that people don't see that make it work. And that's what I
prefer. You can't have one without the other.
Yes, and I'm pretty comfortable with other people having the other and me supporting it. And it's throughout my career, this has been my thing. Anybody who's worked with me would know that I would prefer to do the Excel sheet up to the projections, and once the funding is done and groundbreaking is done, I don't want to go to site. Even for my own houses, my husband is the one who runs with the development. I'm not. I don't like being on site because I think for me, visually, it's complete. And then the number of months that it takes or the number of years that it takes for the development to come up, I'm past it already, so I don't have the patience.
But in terms of your analysis of the Botswana market, do you think property investors are really leaving a lot of money on the table because of not knowing this financial side?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
It's a thing of, are you investing in the right places? Are you exiting at the right time? Is your rentals the correct rentals? Because sometimes, and this is something that the typical person misses a lot, where we are pushed to develop, I'll use multi-reses for example, because a lot of people go into them. You're pushed to develop a multi-res, and your highest priority is how it looks like. If it brings you pride, right? And not, can my target market afford to pay this? Because it doesn't matter whether you know it or not. The reality is, once you open the doors, it's only the target market that will come, and they will only pay what they can afford. And that's where you would find that one would have invested in a multi-res, and they are, what is it called? they are also subsidizing it with their income. Then it stops being an investment. So that's where I think a lot of people lose out.
Can you give examples without mentioning names, how you advise Botswana or how you've advised them to approach this challenge?
Yeah, I'll give you instances of mistakes. There's a lady, quite elderly, at the time approaching retirement, had built a beautiful house, but now she lives by herself. And the intention at the time was, I mean, when she came in, she wanted to convert it into a bed and breakfast. But fundamentals didn't work for that property where it was located. It was far, inaccessible, deep into the particular locality, and it just wouldn't work. So we informed her of this.
You ran the numbers?
Yes, we ran the numbers and showed her. But as you would have people first invest with their heart. By the time they come for advice, a lot of them want you to rubber stamp or confirm their convictions. So she went ahead and converted. First of all, if you convert a home into a domestic guest house, there's a lot of requirements that you then need to fulfill. So she now spends a lot of money converting this thing or this property to meet all of these, making each room to be self-contained and providing all the furniture and all the things that are required by law. And
some of them are excessive.
yeah, and was never really able to fully utilize it as a bed and breakfast. And
COVID didn't help either.
well, now recently there has been a COVID issue, and now the fear is she's retired, she's invested so much. What happens?
And you can't exactly say to her, I told you so.
No, I will never say that to a client.
Yeah.
And then another one, much more recently, had self-catering apartments in Maung, where that was working well. Came to Gaborone and wanted to create the same, but somewhere very far. So we also ran the numbers, vacancy rates and things like that. And this is post-COVID. This conversation is happening post-COVID. And it's things like that where, and fortunately for this one, she listened because she, in fact, she's been a customer for a while on different things, so she was able to listen. So every time we bring in a customer, especially from an advisory perspective, I start off with a counseling conversation of this is what we are going to give you numbers, not sentiments, not opinions, nothing. And at the end of those numbers, it will be a recommendation for or against that investment, and we will show you why. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
In real estate, we say that we're always looking for the highest and best use. Can you give a scenario where you advised and you managed to unlock value? Oh,
yeah. Can I say that
without mentioning names, of course.
Yeah, it's very hard to talk about it without mentioning it because it is one of the major developers in the country, and they have used us a couple of times on major developments, and they continue to, and up to date they are doing a lot of construction of, at least I can say, shopping malls without being thingy. So they've used us a lot, particularly around their major developments in different locations.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really trying not to
mention the name.
Yeah.
And I mean, how did you help them unlock value, like I was asking?
So essentially at that level, what they're looking for initially before they start building is a feasibility study. So when we do feasibility studies, it comes right down to what is that location ideal for? The size of the plot, what's the maximum you can build on it, and does the economy around it support that size? If it doesn't, how do you phase the development? And what are the key things you need to keep in mind as you phase them? So phase 1 is up to this level. When it achieves this milestone, you can move on to phase 2. And then it's your tenancy mix. Who needs to be there? And this is based on the demographic around the catchment area. If it's a shopping mall, it's your catchment area. If it's a housing development, it is still your catchment area. What are the transport routes? How do people access that? What are the other facilities that are available that support your particular development? And from there, we can say, when we have all of that, we're able to say, no, you can go ahead, but these are the key things you need to have. And oftentimes, if somebody comes in early enough in the development, they're then able to use the results of the feasibility for the architect to draw according to the requirements and within the price, because obviously then we do the financials to then say you cannot invest more than this because you will never get your return back.
Now, you ran a listed company, albeit for 9 months. Do you think that there are different dynamics when you're dealing with a publicly listed company versus ordinary clients who are not listed?
As a business person or as a client?
I think you could say a little bit of both.
Yeah. So as a, when I ran literally the key thing, and it's because I had been dealing with listed companies right from RTC to Turnstar, and then eventually literally, it's just an appreciation of the level of regulation and always being on your toes with regards to what are the things that you need to be reporting on, what are the things you need to watch, what are the conversations you need to have. And for me, it was really helpful to assert myself at the time, and it helped boost my confidence and my knowledge of real estate as an investment and being strong in that area. And then when we deal with listed companies as a client, the parameters are the same. It's about an investment. So what we rather look for when they do come in, and sometimes we do that even with any other client. The only thing is that with the listed companies or with sophisticated developers, they would have this in place. Your investment parameters. What's the minimum investment criteria? Do you invest on, like, you would know, okay, so some would say we will not put money on anything that's less than 5 million pula, or we would not invest in anything where we would need to have 100% ownership, or where we need to gear it more than 35%. So those are the parameters that we make sure that the development sticks to.
Okay.
And then the risk, our risk matrix looking forward is to maintain these parameters for them.
You've been in the industry very long. There's a perception that in Botswana there's a lot of money, especially with pension funds, looking for projects, looking for opportunities. What is your experience and what is your view on this?
The money is there. The challenge is that there isn't sufficient vehicles for the pension funds to use that can be channeled to investments like that. For instance, I mean, we looked before at a possibility of a housing fund. There was a requirement of another client. And while looking at it, and they were targeting the pension funds to be the source of this, of funding for this. And the key thing is that though the pension funds are long-term investments, they need to be liquid enough. So they need to be investing in things that are liquid enough that when the money is needed, they're able, because it is other people's money.
But people are not going to retire all at once?
Exactly, they won't, but there is that, you have to be watchful of that.
Yes.
And then the other dynamic there is what happens when you don't make this thing work. how are you going to return that amount of money to them? Because the reality is it is other people's money. So the money is there, but there needs to be as bridging vehicles that can take the risk before the investment.
So it's not just whether the investment is workable or investable. You need to bridge the funding.
Yeah, you need to bridge the funding. You need to bridge the risk, in fact.
Risk.
Yeah, you need to bridge the risk. And so, for
instance, are we doing enough of that, or?
No, so the people who are responsible for doing that, providing those vehicles, are our asset managers. And for them to do that, it means they need to have enough investment vehicles. So not just the money market, they need to have a fund for argument's sake, for technology, a fund for housing, a fund, so that when the pension fund allocates to that particular thing, then the risk is known that for this asset class, this is the risk that you'll be taking, and this is the turnaround time and all of that, and it's clear. So then it's the asset manager who then, when they select which properties, which businesses they are investing in, they make sure
so
it meets the criteria.
So is there a lack of sophistication in the asset managers, or just in the economy itself?
Asset managers were my colleagues. They're very good clients of mine. So it's, I think there just isn't enough variation. There isn't enough variation. Most recently, there's been a lot of new entrants. But even then, we still don't have enough variation to allow.
What can be done about that?
Just to create that variety that meets our market. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation around the growth of SMEs and all of that. I mean, just a simple example is the BSE's efforts to have the Tsipidi fund. Until asset managers have got money for SMEs.
Some people who are watching may not know much about that.
Yes.
Can you bring us up to speed?
So the BSE has a program where, in fact, what they first did was they created a venture capital
fund.
No, not a fund. Is it a boss? Where companies that are ventures.
Venture capital, yes, it's like a boss, yes.
Yes, where companies that are ventures can be listed on that level, right? And for them to be listed at that level, it means there needs to be institutions that can invest in ventures.
Yes.
And institutions they don't have venture funds. So the bridge was for the BSE to create this Tsipidi program to mentor businesses to a level where the asset managers can trust that they can invest in them and somehow justify the creation of a venture fund in the asset managers where they can allocate funds for this. So it's a long journey.
I understand. Your vision for the future. This is the crystal ball moment now. The vision for the future of 3 entities: Proptech, gosmartvalue, and the real estate market in Botswana. Wow. What's your crystal ball telling you? 5, 10, 15, even 20 years.
Yeah. So I'll make it, it's one thing, because the thing I wake up for every single morning, I look forward to a day where you can sit at your house, at your home, look through your phone and select a property you want to invest in, be able to read through it like you're reading newspaper, and be able to buy it and be guaranteed the return at that moment.
Almost like you take a virtual tour of it?
Yeah, if you need to tour it, you're able to do a virtual tour of it. If you need to see the financial projections, you're able to even model. I mean, for me, it's not just about the house. Even if it's any commercial development, you're able to run through different risk models for it, for you to decide, I think I like this thing, I'm going to go ahead. And it doesn't require an army of people coming up with all different aspects of it, with investment committee and all of that kind of stuff. That's really what I live for. I want to get to that point, because I believe when we get to that point, investment will not be an exclusive activity. It would be available to everyone, and people will be able to invest at their level. And
how soon are we getting there, from what you can tell?
I hope sooner than my mind is telling me. I think technology will be there sooner than our minds allow us to do. I mean, recently with my team, we release weekly reports and newsletters, and one of the key things this week was a discussion around the realtor's job, the estate agent's job. How much of that would be affected by technology? And one of the key arguments on the table was people still want to trust another human being. So until that aspect is gone, the agent's role will always be secure, because I want to talk to a human being that I can say, I really love how I feel in this room. So it's things like that.
Yes. But where will Vantage Properties be? Where will these entities be? gosmartvalue. I don't know whether you created as an entity. Where will Proptech be?
So gosmartvalue for us is a product. And the intention is for it to grow and be able to get to that point where you can make that decision on it. And we want to, the problems that we have in this country are not different in other African countries. So as soon as we believe that we are strong enough in our model, we are definitely looking at going outside the country and providing the solution to other Africans.
Tell me about no, this is the time you get to ask me a question. Let's do that. Let's get that over with.
I think my question to you is, what inspired you to start something like the Nuggets?
Well, it's twofold. One, selfish reasons. I want to learn. I have a mind like a sponge. I want to absorb information. And this is the best way to have busy professionals come and have a chat with me sometimes. And then I get to know where I can maybe improve the services that I'm able to offer. That's number one. But secondly, and much more importantly, I needed a platform where successful entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs could showcase their talent, could expose themselves, communicate to the general public in a home environment. We spend our lives watching YouTube channels from outside the country. So I thought it was long past time for us to have a local YouTube channel that speaks to business, that speaks to, inspiration, and all the four things that we talk about, which is to energize, to inspire, to empower, and to enthuse, to enthuse entrepreneurs and members of the public who are interested in entrepreneurship. So those are the two basic reasons, and to give back, of course. So far, I know I'm supposed to ask one question. Would you say that you are fulfilled in this activity? I think so, because I'm quite happy to set aside a whole Thursday, which is a whole day, and do this. In between the interviews, I'm in my office. I'm able to direct what's happening. So it's very, very fulfilling to do something you're passionate about without putting a total stop to what you do for a living. So in that sense, I'm very, very happy. And it also provides employment for other people. So I'm quite happy to see it doing what it's doing, but I really, really want to see more subscribers. I want to see it grow to get to a point where maybe we have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and more people can take advantage of the platform, and the ecosystem can thereby be strengthened, because we're talking entrepreneurship, we're talking business all the time. We need to have these conversations non-stop.
Cool.
All right. You've asked 2 questions. It's fine. You've been a great guest, but you need to look at that viewer out there and just say something inspirational, something powerful that they can take home, Manake, as we part.
Okay, great. I think if it is something inspirational, I would say that it doesn't matter what kind of background you come from or what kind of industry you started with. It is possible for you to achieve whatever it is you set yourself to achieve, and you are enough in who you are to get there. I have a real estate background and I'm running a technology platform. Albeit it's in real estate, but I'm basically running a tech firm. So anybody can be able to do that.
Okay, how do the viewers get in touch with your company? How do they carry on with this conversation to learn more and to take advantage of your services? Contact details, please.
Yes, so we also have a YouTube channel. It's just Vantage Properties. On there we talk about real estate transactions. We talk about, so we share also what we have, our reports and sort of information about real estate. And then we have a Twitter, that's Info Vantage. Mine is Sethebe Manake. And then Facebook is Vantage Properties and also Sethebe Manake. And to call the office, our number is 77-338-100. That's 77-338-100. And if you're looking for consulting, you can email info@vantagepropertiesbw.com. But if you're looking to self-serve, look at different reports, do your own instant valuation, you go to gosmartvalue.com and everything will be there available to you.
Thank you very much indeed. You've been a wonderful guest. You've done a great job.
Thank you so much.